Hello, and welcome to the Chapter a Day Read Aloud program at the Davenport Public Library. My name is Miss Angie, and I will be reading with you today. What we're going to do is read through an entire J fiction book, a chapter at a time. So we're going to get started. Our first book is a Kate DiCamillo book, The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane. Now, if you're familiar with Kate DiCamillo, you know that she is an excellent author. She's one of my favorites. I love this book. Another one of my favorites is Because of Winn-Dixie, which is also a movie. I like them both. I like the movie and I like the book. So I wouldn't pick one over the other, but I would recommend both. The Tiger Rising is another of my favorites. And of course, The Tale of Despero is great too. She's written a number of other things which we will probably talk about later during the session. This book was published by Candlewick Publishing, and they have generously granted us permission to read this book with you during this session. That said, we're going to get started. There are a few illustrations in this book, not a lot. It's not a picture book, but there are some illustrations, and those are by Bagram Iba Tulane. And you can see the cover is very colorful, and you see the little rabbit. Okay, we're going to get started. This book is dedicated. It's for Jane Resch Thomas, who gave me the rabbit and told me his name. We have a little quote at the beginning of the book. "The heart breaks and breaks, and lives by breaking. It is necessary to go through dark and deeper dark, and not to turn." From The Testing Tree by Stanley Kunitz. Okay, we're going to start here in Chapter 1. Once, in a house on Egypt Street, there lived a rabbit who was made almost entirely of china. He had china arms and china legs, china paws and a china head, a china torso and a china nose. His arms and legs were joined and jointed by wire so that his china elbows and china knees could be bent, giving him much freedom of movement. His ears are made of real rabbit fur, and beneath the fur there were strong, bendable wires which allowed the ears to be arranged into poses that reflected the rabbit's mood. Jaunty, tired, full of ennui. His tail, too, is made up of real rabbit fur and was fluffy and soft and well-shaped. The rabbit's name was Edward Tulane, and he was tall. He measured almost 3 feet from the tip of his ears to the tip of his feet. His eyes were painted a penetrating and intelligent blue. In all, Edward Tulane felt himself to be an exceptional specimen. Only his whiskers gave him pause. They were long and elegant, as they should be, but they were of an uncertain origin. Whom the whiskers had belonged to initially, what unsavory animal, was a question that Edward could not bear to consider for too long, and so he did not. He preferred, as a rule, not to think unpleasant thoughts. Edward's mistress was a 10-year-old, dark-haired girl named Abilene Tulane, who thought almost as highly of Edward as Edward thought of himself. Each morning after she dressed herself for school, Abilene dressed Edward. The china rabbit was in possession of an extraordinary wardrobe composed of handmade silk suits, custom shoes fashioned from the finest leather and designed specifically for his rabbit feet, and a wide variety of hats, equipped with holes so that they could easily fit over Edward's large and expressive ears. Each pair of well-cut pants had a pocket for Edward's gold pocket watch. Abilene wound this watch for him each morning. "Now, Edward," she said to him after she was done winding the watch, "when the big hand is on the 12 and the little hand is on the 3, I will come home to you." She placed Edward on a chair in the dining room, and she positioned the chair so that Edward was looking out the window and could see the path that led up to the Tulane front door. Abilene balanced the watch on his left leg. She kissed the tips of his ears, and then she left. And Edward spent all day, staring out at Egypt Street, listening to the tick of his watch and waiting. Of all the seasons of the year, the rabbit most preferred winter, for the sun set early then, and the dining room windows became dark, and Edward could see his own reflection in the glass. What a reflection it was! What an elegant figure he cut! Edward never ceased to be amazed at his own fineness. In the evening, Edward sat at the dining room table with the other members of the Tulane family, Aveline, her mother and father, and Aveline's grandmother, who was called Pellegrina. True, Edward's ears barely cleared the tabletop, and true also, he spent the duration of the meal staring straight ahead at nothing but the bright and blinding white of the tablecloth. But there he was, a rabbit at the table. Aveline's parents found it charming that Aveline considered Edward real, and that she sometimes requested that a phrase or a story be repeated because Edward had not heard it. "Papa," Aveline would say, "I'm afraid that Edward didn't catch that last bit." Aveline's father would then turn in the direction of Edward's ears and speak slowly, repeating what he had just said for the benefit of the china rabbit. Edward pretended, out of courtesy to Aveline, to listen, but in truth he was not very interested in what people had to say. And also, he did not care for Aveline's parents and their condescending manner toward him. All adults, in fact, condescended to him. Only Aveline's grandmother spoke to him as Aveline did, as one equal to another. Pellegrina was very old. She had a large, sharp nose, black eyes that shone like dark stars. It was Pellegrina who was responsible for Edward's existence. It was she who had commissioned his making, she who had ordered his silk suits and pocket watch, his jaunty hats and his bendable ears, his fine leather shoes, and his jointed arms and legs, all from a master craftsman in her native France. It was Pellegrina who had given him as a gift to Aveline on her 7th birthday. And it was Pellegrina who came each night to tuck Aveline into her bed and Edward into his. "Will you tell us a story, Pellegrina?" Aveline asked her grandmother each night. "Not tonight, lady," said Pellegrina. "When?" asked Aveline. "What night?" "Soon," said Pellegrina. "Soon there will be a story." And then she turned off the light, and Edward and Aveline lay in the dark at the bedroom. "I love you, Edward," Aveline said each night after Pellegrina had left. She said those words and then she waited, almost as if she expected Edward to say something in return. Edward said nothing. He said nothing because, of course, he could not speak. He lay in his small bed next to Aveline's large one. He stared up at the ceiling and he listened to the sound of her breath entering and leaving her body, knowing soon she would be asleep. Because Edward's eyes were painted on and he could not close them, he was always awake. Sometimes, if Aveline put him into his bed on his side instead of onto his back, he could see through the cracks in the curtains and out into the dark night. On clear nights, the stars shone and their pinprick light comforted Edward in a way that he could not quite understand. Often he stared at the stars all night until the dark finally gave way to the dawn. Oh, now that would be ridiculous, to have your eyes painted on and not be able to close them to go to sleep. Let's look at that first picture again. Let's see if it... Oh, you know what's going on there? She's winding that pocket watch that she put on his lap before she went to school. So what do you think? Are you loving this book? I love the language and the flow of it and how it just how it flows. So I want to talk to you and to your parents for just a minute. during this reading, if you would like to extend it and make it into kind of a literacy lesson at home, you certainly can. There are a ton of resources online that you can pull up. One that I pulled up today, sorry, we had some technical difficulties there. So if you'd like to extend this reading and do some literacy-based activities, you can find quite a few options online. I would suggest starting at the publisher site. So go to candlewick.com and look under, they have a tab for educators or for teachers, and you can see a list of their resources there. Now I had kind of a hard time navigating. It might be easier for you to find what you're looking for. If you do have trouble, just do a Google search. I tried Candlewick Teachers Resources Tulane for Edward Tulane, and it gave me the link to go directly to what I wanted, and you'll see quite a few options there of different things that you can do with the story. So that's a good place to start. Thank you for stopping in today, and I will see you for chapter 2.